ladies, what I'd like to chat with you guys specifically today is sitting. So we at Painless Pregnancy have gotten a lot of phone calls these last few weeks with quarantine, and they've been saying the same symptoms. So they've been talking about low back pain, tailbone pain, incontinence. But the unique situation is that when we delve a little deeper and we ask our moms, we talk quite a bit on the phone before we schedule together, a lot of these new situations that are popping up are coming from an increase in sitting. So I know some of you who have babies, or maybe if you have toddlers, you're running around a lot and you're like, what is sitting? So I totally get that. I have a 20-month-old. I don't sit a ton when I'm taking care of her. But a lot of us have transitioned to working in front of a computer or helping our kids work in front of a computer. So we're just walking a lot less, we're moving around a lot less, and we are more specifically sitting a ton. So I want to connect the dots for you guys about why an increase in sitting could lead to these conditions. And then I want to give just some really simple tips of what you can start doing tonight, tomorrow, to decrease the side effects of increased sitting. Sound good? Yes, everyone's excited. Okay, so first of all, low back pain with increased sitting. Okay, so this is a long, like we've known this forever, that people who sit a lot have an increased risk for experiencing low back pain. And actually in sitting, you are providing the highest level of intravertebral pressure. So the discs that exist between your backbones have the most pressure in between them when you're in a sitting position, okay? So what can we do about that? Because we still have to work in front of a computer, right? So my number one tip is to change your position, okay? And I'm gonna show you specifically when you have to be in a chair. I'm gonna show you how to be successful with that. But I've done some telehealth visits on my knees. So my computer's right here. I put my, my yoga mats on the floor and I'll just kneel. So right now I'm putting weight on my knees. My bum is not being compressed. My hips can be stretched in the front and I'm doing my work. And then if I can use my laptop, I'll put it on the kitchen counter. And that's actually a perfect height for you to do your work and stand. Okay, and if you can't, if it's too low for you, if you're too tall, then you can put it on a couple of books. If it's too high for you, you can stand on a step stool. But if you switch your position from sitting to kneeling to standing, and you can still accomplish your work, that's so phenomenal for your body, okay? Like Nita said, increase your activity. It's such a phenomenal piece of advice. You do need to move around more. So absolutely 100% do that. But if you have to be in front of a computer, these are ways to be successful, okay? Now, for when you are in front of a computer and you need to be in your chair, what I do, and we do this with all of our moms, because a lot of our moms, whether they work in sitting or they do sit from time to time, you want to do it best, okay? Now, first things first is the lower portion of your body. So this chair is like a perfect height for me. The seat is a perfect height because my knees and my hips are at the same angle. Okay, that means if I put a plate of green peas on my lap, they would not roll down and they will not roll towards me. This is flat. Okay, that's a 90-degree angle at my hips and at my knees. So if you check yourself out in your chair and you notice that your knees are up towards your chest and they're too high, then you're gonna put a pillow under your bum, okay? If you sit in your chair and your feet are dangling, your knees are lower than your hips, and your feet are kind of like, where do I put them? And you catch yourself putting them behind and putting them up. You need to fill that space under your knees, okay? So you're gonna put a book or something small under your feet until your knees are as high as your hips and you've got that flat position, okay? So that's the lower part. The other important thing to understand about the chairs that we all use is almost none of them are set up to help your back be in the right position. So you see this chair reclines here, and it's gonna encourage me to lean back like this. So if I have to work at the computer, like where am I? How is my spine? How's the position? So you want to be up tall, and tall is the best way to think, to really stack your head over your shoulders and your shoulders over your hips, okay? So instead of thinking, tuck my chin back or squeeze my shoulder blades, just think to stand tall or sit tall, and you should line up properly. Now you can certainly sit like this, but you might get tired. So it's totally okay to grab a pillow and place it behind you to fill that space, okay? And I will say too, it's totally okay to lean in, lean back, and come away from perfect posture for a moment, okay? Perfect posture is like eating a salad. You know, you gotta do it. You have to get your veggies in. But it's okay to have a bite of chocolate chip cookie every once in a while. The problem is when you eat chocolate chip cookies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you wonder why your nutrition is awful and you're overweight, right? So there's gotta be that balance. So really be aware of how your posture is in sitting. If your chair's too high or low, accommodate for that and respect your back. If your back starts to hurt, try a different position. Get up and walk. Do not ignore pain signals in your body, okay? We want to stay connected to those and respond to them, all right? The other thing that we hear a lot, and this is super common in pregnant and postpartum women, is tailbone pain. So what's going on with that? This is a model of your pelvis, okay? Pubic bone, these are your deep sit bones. So that's the front of your pelvis, and if I turn this around, this is your sacrum with your tailbone. So this tiny little bone can cause us a lot of discomfort. And like I said, even though it's common in pregnant and postpartum women, we've seen an increase in this, and we really do realize that it has to do with a lot of sitting and inactivity, okay? So our biggest piece of advice with tailbone pain is that you've got to get off of it. This was not designed to bear weight, okay? We're not supposed to push through this. So when you sit, you're actually supposed to roll your hips forward. You're gonna sit on your deep sit bones, and you'll feel more like you're sitting towards your pubic bone than your tailbone. So when you're sitting, you're actually rolled forward to where this tailbone is not pushing on the surface of your chair. Does that make sense? You wanna make sure that you're not compressing down here, because that is gonna trigger inflammation and give you pain through this area without a doubt. And then if you continue to sit on it, oof, you're looking in a world of trouble there, okay? The other component to tailbone tightness or tailbone pain is pelvic floor tightness, okay? So this is my other fancy pelvic model right here. Same bones, right? But now you see all these thick, strong, healthy pelvic floor muscles between them, okay? So this is the back of the pelvis, and you see the tailbone down here, but it has all of those pelvic floor muscles holding onto them, okay? Our muscles attached to our bones. Our pelvic floor muscles attached to our sacral bones, okay? Specifically the tailbone is held onto by these structures. If you tend to be somebody who bites, grinds your teeth, holds a lot of neck tension, it just so happens that you're highly likely that you're storing tension in your pelvic floor as well, okay? So what we've noticed is that when we assess our mamas in the pelvic floor, we see that, yes, some are weak and loose, and that is their problem, but some of them are tight, okay? So I've met many women who, when we start working with their pelvic floor and they're connecting to it and they're understanding how to strengthen and relax, they say, wow, I have been holding my pelvic floor tight until you just told me to relax it. So these muscles, just like any other muscles in our body, are designed to contract, but also relax and lengthen. So if we don't give those muscles the opportunity to do that lengthening and relaxing, the bones are gonna follow, and the bones are gonna change shape, and the joints are gonna be affected by that. So what that means specifically for this example is that if you're holding your pelvic floor tight, you're literally pulling this tailbone under, and now it doesn't move normally. So we're removing its ability to function properly, but then we're also setting it up for failure, because when we pull it under us, of course we're gonna sit on it, and of course we're gonna give it pressure, and then it's gonna get mad at us, and it's gonna hurt, okay? So one really great way to know if you're relaxing your pelvic floor is to contract it and then feel what happens when you tell it to relax. So if you guys sit up nice and tall in your chair, you want to have that good posture to connect to your pelvic floor. And you're going to close your eyes so you connect to that space. And it's the space that touches a bike seat. Okay, for all of you guys who are riding your Pelotons right now or riding your bikes on the beaches that we cannot enjoy. And you're going to think to lift up as if you're trying to not pass gas. So we all know how to not fart, right, ladies? We're connected to that. So I want you to pull up and in and pretend like you're holding gas. Hold up and in, and now zip forward like you're trying to not pass urine. And once you feel like you have that contraction, stay connected to that muscle group and relax. And feel how that muscle goes from shortening to lengthening. And once you connect to that control, you can now check in with that muscle group throughout the day tomorrow. And you can say, oh my goodness, I'm keeping it tight. Or I'm not connected to it at all, and it's just kind of hanging low instead of me having some muscle tone in there. So super important for all the moms that we work with, that they're not only connected to their pelvic floor, but they make sure that they're using it appropriately. Because many of us come up here when we're stressed and tired and typing a lot or holding kids or whatever it is. I used to do that when I started breastfeeding my daughter. It's just this protective reaction, but it adds stress to our bodies. It tells our brain, we're not safe. You have to protect me. Something bad is happening, okay? That's what that posture is. The same is true in the pelvic floor. If you hold that tension there, your tailbone can hurt, but also you're not giving protected, safe signals to your neurological system. And so the difference that we see in our moms when, one, oftentimes we will release this upper back, upper trap area, sometimes the jaw, but then we also can manually release the pelvic floor muscles through intravaginal massage, and they just feel an overwhelming sense of release. Like, wow, not only am I calm now, but I feel like it's okay to be calm. It's okay to be relaxed. So that's a huge thing that we teach our moms, and I would love it if you could add that to your repertoire of connecting to your body and seeing how you're feeling. Okay. The other thing that we are hearing in our moms right now and connecting back to increased sitting is incontinence. Okay, so this word is used for when we are not holding in our urine or our bowel the way we want to, okay? And it can even relate to gas. So if you're leaking pee, poo, or gas beyond your control, that would mean you're incontinent. So this category of incontinence could be its own webinar all by itself. There's a lot of different types of incontinence. Sometimes moms will have issues when they have impact. So like if you run, jump, trampolines are really hard, cough, sneeze, lift, laugh, any of those activities that increase intra-abdominal pressure, your pelvic floor should react to, and it should hold up just fine, and your pants should be dry, right? If your pants are not dry with any of those activities, you have stress incontinence. Something pushes on the pelvic floor, instead of it responding by coming up, it doesn't respond properly and you lose something. With sitting, it's a different type of incontinence, and this is called urge incontinence. Now, what that means is, say for example, this is a common one. You're putting the key in the door. Some of us don't have keys anymore, but say you put the key in the door and you're coming home for the day, and bam, that urge to use the bathroom hits you hard. And you're like, I gotta run, and you lose it before you get there, okay? You have a urinary leak, your pants are wet when you go to sit on the toilet, okay? That's urge incontinence. Your brain says, oh my goodness, I have to pee, and before you can get to the toilet, you lose some urine, okay? Now, how does that relate to sitting? Because that doesn't seem to connect, right? So one thing that we do see is that when you sit for a prolonged period of time, you are compressing pelvic floor muscles. It's okay, they're there to help you sit, they're supportive. But your pelvic floor muscles are intimately connected to your bladder. And if I remove my uterus here, you can see how the bladder literally rests on that pubic bone. And it's structurally, oh, my colon just fell. Let me take the colon out. It's structurally supported by the other pelvic floor muscles. Okay, so the bladder's sitting right there, a little organ. If you peel that puppy back, you've got some beautiful, thick, strong pelvic floor muscles supporting it, okay? Now, the bladder and the pelvic floor have a unique relationship, okay? When our pelvic floor is tight, it's sending a signal to the bladder, I'm not emptying, stay holding, we're not ready to release yet, okay? So when your pelvic floor muscles are tight, it's saying, no pee-pee is leaving right now. If your pelvic floor muscles are relaxed, your bladder is going to say, oh, I'm safe to squeeze, and you should tell it, okay, muscle squeeze around your bladder, and the pelvic floor muscles relax and open, and urine passes through, okay? Basic mechanics of emptying your bladder. So now you're sitting for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Maybe before, when you were at work, you would have gotten up to walk to the meeting, but instead now you're just working. Oh, it's 9 o'clock, log into my meeting. Oh, my meeting ran late, it's 10:15, I have another phone call, and you might just be sitting for hours, okay? That sitting will actually decrease or soften the signal to your brain, hey, I gotta empty my bladder, okay? So the idea that you're going to hold your bladder longer than you normally would, sometimes longer than you should, because we shouldn't really go past that 5-6 hour mark of not urinating. Then you go to stand up finally, and you're thinking, oh, let me get something to eat, and it hits you, boom, I gotta go. And then you start to walk to the bathroom, and you lose urine, okay? Very discouraging, upsetting situation, totally get it. So a few tips with that. How do I prevent that urge incontinence after I've been sitting, because I gotta sit, Dr. Vigo, I have meeting after meeting, and you know, that's where I'm at right now. So what I want you to do is, one, set a timer, okay? If that's you, if that's speaking to you, you need to set a timer. So in the morning, when you urinate, right then and there, you're gonna put in your phone, 3 hours later, go to the bathroom, okay? Make sure you empty that bladder again before you get stuck in front of that computer for another hour or two, okay? So reminders for emptying your bladder every 3-4 hours, all right? The other thing you can do, let's say you tried those tips, but you forgot, or it was out of your control, and meetings, and I know I didn't go, and I'm gonna stand up and have an issue. Before you stand up, I want you to do several strong, fast Kegels, or pelvic floor muscle contractions, okay? And that's like what we just did. You pull up and in like you're trying to not pass gas, zip forward like you're trying to not pass urine, and then relax and come right back up again, okay? It's pulses. These pulses are gonna yell at that bladder above it and say, stop it, stop it, stop it. I'm not ready, we're not safe, we're not prepared to urinate. Stay holding, okay? That's the relationship between the bladder and the pelvic floor. So you're sitting for a long time, you know you have to empty, you're gonna do 5 fast Kegels, then stand up and take a nice deep breath. Tell yourself you're gonna make it. None of this cursing in your head and come on, stop doing this is frustrating. Positive self-talk. You got this. You're gonna get to the bathroom just in time. You'll do great, okay? And then you walk calmly to the bathroom and empty your bladder. You do not run, no matter how high the urge is. Now I will say, if the urge hits you again, and you start to have that thought, oh, I'm not gonna make it, you're gonna stop walking, and in standing, you're gonna pull up and in another 5 times, okay? You wanna get a hold of that urge and control it, then allow yourself to empty over the toilet, okay? Keep in mind, these bladder urges, they come like waves, okay? So it's gonna be really bad and you're gonna start thinking, I'm not gonna make it, I'm not gonna make it. But if you can get past that wave, it's gonna go down and you'll be like, look at me, I'm dry, okay? We've all had that experience. You're in the car driving somewhere and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta pee so bad. And you're like, oh, I can't get home fast enough. But then you get home and like you're unloading the car, you're taking care of the kids, and like 20 minutes pass and you're like, holy cow, I forgot to pee. So that's the wave idea, okay? Get control of the wave, never run to the toilet, and make sure that you use your pelvic floor to your advantage so that you stay in control of that bladder, okay? So those are my tips for being successful with sitting, okay? Be mindful of your chair. Hips and knees should be at 90 degrees. Put a pillow behind your back. Get out of the chair as much as you can. Kneel at your desk with a pad underneath your knees. Stand with your laptop at your kitchen counter, okay? If you're having tailbone pain, get off of that tailbone. You don't want to sit rolled forward like this. You need to sit up tall, get that tailbone with no weight on it, and lean more towards your pubic bone, okay? And that goes again with supporting your back. You're going to put that pillow behind, and you'll feel like it's okay to not sit on your tailbone because your back is supported, okay? The other thing with tailbone, you don't want to have a tight pelvic floor. Contract it and relax it, and get connected to what relaxation feels like. Be comfortable with that. Okay, super important. Such a strong lesson to learn about your body. And then the incontinence. If you're dealing with that urge incontinence from prolonged sitting, make sure you're emptying your bladder at appropriate intervals, 3 hours, 4 hours, and you're not going past that 5-6 hour mark, okay? If you do encounter that urge incontinence, you're gonna try those 5 fast pelvic floor contractions, okay? Get control of it. Now, I want to end with a word of encouragement, because some of us, we encounter these problems and we're like, oh, let me just find a solution. I'm gonna Google it, or I'm gonna watch Kat and Nita's webinar tonight, and I'm gonna see if she can help me, okay? And that's what these things are for. We're here to help. Offer some advice, say, hey, this is a common problem, this is a common solution. This is what I do. If you implement these solutions and you're still having issues, you just need a little more help, okay? There's a ton of other factors that we go through as doctors of physical therapy to assess what your personal history is like, what your body has been through, what are you dealing with right now? Do you have tight muscles? Do you have weak muscles? Which ones are strong? Which ones are not firing properly, okay? What bones are sitting beautifully where they should be? What bones are a little wonky and they need some help coming back into alignment, okay? So if you try these things and they don't help, reach out, get the appropriate help, okay? We're here, we do phone consults for free, we do telehealth visits, and if you're really suffering, moms, if you're really suffering, we'll come to your home and we'll treat you, okay? So I want you guys to know that that help is available. You should not suffer in silence, and that it's okay if little tips don't work for you, because then we can come and help put all of those pieces together. So I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. Certainly follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're called Painless Pregnancy, and we respond to messages. Like I said, we do free phone consults. So if you have a question about pelvic floor, core, pregnancy, postpartum, as far as it relates to muscles and bones, pain and dysfunction, we are your girls. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to connect with you and see how we can better serve you. So thanks for watching. Nita, let me know if there's anything I need to do, or if we should, if you'd like me to wrap up. Oh, I hear something. There you are.
I'm back.
Yay.
I just want to add one thing that you mentioned.
Yes.
Just before we finish this one. You said empty your bladder. So if we connect with both of us just said today, well, one of the tips that I gave was drink more water. If you drink more water, you're just going to have to empty your bladder. You're just going to run to your toilet much more often.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Yeah, and those always go hand in hand too. And I'd love to say also on that
for some reason, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
So I hope you guys had fun today with us. I hope you liked our live. Feel free to send us questions if you do have any. And if you want us to talk about any other subject, then let us know.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Nita.